The first time Ely and Riley saw the girl, she wasn't screaming yet. They had dragged her to the center of the settlement just after dawn, her slender gray form stumbling between two armored guards. Elian had been repairing a filtration unit on the outpost's roof, offering him an unobstructed view of the Voskerian justice ritual unfolding below. "You shouldn't watch this," muttered Koval, his Voskerian assistant, four-fingered hands nervously adjusting tools that didn't need adjusting. "It is not for human eyes." But Elian couldn't look away as the tribal elders circled the girl. Even from a distance, he could see the distinctive violet markings along her neck, marks of the Telgian clan, the same clan that had attempted to overthrow the ruling Dominar 3 cycles ago. "What did she do?" Elian asked, his voice barely audible over the wind that perpetually swept across the settlement's metal structures. Koval's inner eyelids flickered, a sign of discomfort among his species. "She exists. She is Telgian blood." After the rebellion, the Dominar decreed that all Telgian youths would bear witness, one from each family. Below, they were securing heavy chains around the girl's wrists. An elder approached, carrying a ceremonial blade. "Bear witness to what?" Elian asked, though something in his gut already knew. His answer came in the form of a low, rumbling growl. From the shadows of the Judgment Hall emerged a creature Elian had only seen in Voskerian morning pictographs, a creche beast, muscled and scaled, with jaws that could snap a human femur like kindling. The beast strained against its handlers, 6 legs clawing at the ground. "They're not going to," Elian began. 10 days, Koval said flatly. "Chained to the beast. Dragged wherever it goes. The Dominar's law." Ambassador Wexler's orientation speech echoed in Elian's mind. "We are guests here. Their customs are not ours to judge. The Voskerian Alliance provides Earth with 60% of its deuterium. Non-interference is not a suggestion. It is your only option." The girl's first scream came when they chained her to the beast. It wasn't the volume that haunted Elian. It was the resignation behind it, as if she'd been saving that sound, knowing worse was to come. For 3 days, Elian tried to work. The filtration systems needed calibration, the atmospheric regulators required maintenance, and the outpost power grid was temperamental at best. But no matter where he went in the human compound, he heard her cries as the beast dragged her through the settlement's dusty paths. On the 4th day, he requested a transfer. Denied. Commander Jeffries told him without looking up from his reports. "We're short-staffed as is." By the 7th day, Elian couldn't eat. The girl's voice had grown hoarse, her cries now rasping whimpers that somehow cut deeper than screams. "Her name is Nura," Koval told him on the 9th morning, as they silently worked on the compound's external sensors. It was the first time either had mentioned her in days. "She has endured longer than most." That night, Elian stood at his window, watching the beast pace the central square, the girl, Nura, barely conscious as she was pulled through the dirt. No one watched anymore. The spectacle had grown routine, the suffering background noise. His hands trembled as he closed the blinds. 26 hours remained in her sentence. Ambassador Wexler was negotiating the new deuterium contract. The Earthside corporations would be pleased. Elian stared at his reflection in the darkened window. One more day, he told himself. Just one more day of protocol. But in his heart, he already knew. He wouldn't wait that long. Elian's quarters felt like a prison cell as nightfall approached on the 10th day. He paced the small room, Mira's weakening cries filtering through the walls despite the compound's sound dampening. The diplomatic logs on his tablet displayed the day's message from Ambassador Wexler. Contract negotiations proceeding favorably. All personnel maintain non-interference protocols. Elian shut off the tablet and reached beneath his bed, pulling out the emergency pack he'd assembled over the past 2 days. Medkit, rations, water purifier, thermal blanket. Standard issue for all technical staff, but never meant to be used for this. From his toolkit, he added a plasma cutter and electromagnetic pulse device, meant for machinery repairs. "This is insanity," he whispered to himself, but his hands continued their work. The compound's night shift was skeletal. 2 guards at the main entrance, a communications officer, and automated security systems that Elian himself had helped install. As the maintenance engineer, he knew every blind spot. At precisely 27 minutes past midnight, when the Voskerian moons aligned in their monthly eclipse, he slipped through the service tunnel beneath the east fence. The settlement beyond lay in half-darkness, with only ritual lanterns illuminating the central square where the beast rested, Nira's broken form lying in the dirt beside it. 2 Voskerian guards stood nearby, their attention focused on a game involving polished stones, a traditional pastime during night watch. Elian had observed their habits for days. They would rotate positions in approximately 12 minutes. Moving from shadow to shadow, he approached the square from behind the ceremonial platform. The beast's breathing was heavy and rhythmic, drugged, he suspected, to keep it docile during rest periods. The chain between it and Nira was thick, designed to withstand the creature's strength, but the lock mechanism was simple. Elian waited until the guards moved to their next position, then darted across the open space. Up close, Nira's condition was worse than he'd imagined. Her gray skin was lacerated and caked with dust. The distinctive violet markings on her neck were barely visible beneath the bruising. Her eyes fluttered open as he knelt beside her, 4-lidded eyes the color of amber, widening in confusion and fear. "I'm going to help you," he whispered, though he wasn't sure if she understood human speech. The electronic lock on her restraints yielded to his override device with a soft click. As Elian gently pulled the chains away, the beast stirred, sensing the change. One massive, scaled paw twitched. A shout came from across the square. One of the guards had turned early. Elian abandoned stealth and scooped Nira into his arms. Her body weighed less than he expected, dangerously so. The beast lunged, suddenly alert, but its chain held. Elian ran, cradling Nira against his chest as shouts and alarms erupted behind them. The settlement's eastern boundary, where the wilderness began, was his target. The guards would expect him to head for the human compound. "Hold on," he murmured as Nira trembled in his arms. They reached the perimeter where the settlement lights faded into darkness. Beyond lay the vast Voskerian highlands, dangerous, unexplored by humans, but their only chance. As the first energy weapons discharged behind them, Elian plunged into the wilderness, feeling Nira's fingers weakly grip his shirt. With each step away from the settlement, Elian felt the weight of his actions settling onto his shoulders. There would be no return from this, no explanation that would satisfy Earth authorities or Voskerian law. In saving her, he had exiled himself. Yet as the alien wilderness swallowed them and Nira's breathing steadied against his chest, Elian felt something he hadn't experienced since arriving on this harsh world. Certainty. Behind them, the settlement's alert sirens wailed into the night, but ahead lay only darkness and possibility. Dawn broke over the Voskerian highlands, painting the alien landscape in hues of amber and copper. Elian had walked through the night, following the path of a narrow ravine that wound away from the settlement. Nira remained semi-conscious in his arms, occasionally murmuring words in her native tongue that his translator couldn't catch. When the ravine widened into a sheltered grove beside a trickling stream, Elian finally stopped. His muscles screamed with fatigue as he gently set Nira down on the thermal blanket. "Water," he said, holding his canteen to her cracked lips. "Drink slowly." She stared at him with those amber eyes, confusion evident in their depths, but she drank. The medkit yielded antiseptic and bandages, which he used to clean the worst of her wounds. The chain had left raw circles around her wrists and ankles. Her back was a map of lacerations where the beast had dragged her across rough ground. "I'm Elian," he said as he worked, keeping his voice soft. "I'm sorry I didn't come sooner." Nira watched him silently, then surprised him by responding in halting English. "Why, human elves?" The simplicity of the question caught him off guard. "Because it was wrong," he finally answered. What they did to you was wrong. She seemed to consider this for a moment before speaking again. Wrong by human ways, not Voskerian. Wrong by any measure I care about, Elian replied, finishing the bandaging. They couldn't linger long. By now, both Voskerian authorities and the human diplomatic corps would be searching. Elian had disabled his personal locator, but that wouldn't stop them from tracking the old-fashioned way. After allowing Nira an hour's rest, he helped her stand. Her legs trembled beneath her, but determination flashed in her eyes. She was stronger than she appeared. "We need to keep moving," he said, packing up their meager supplies. "There will be search parties." Nira nodded, then pointed toward a distant ridgeline. "That way," she said. "Old places, not used by Dominar clan." They traveled slowly, Nira leaning against him when her strength faltered. The landscape grew increasingly rugged, dotted with strange, spiral-shaped rock formations and vegetation that seemed to pulse with inner light. Twice they froze at the sound of search vessels passing overhead, pressing themselves beneath overhangs until the danger passed. As night fell again, Nira grew more talkative, her English improving with each exchange. She had been selected as her family's sacrifice because she was the youngest, deemed most expendable yet old enough to endure prolonged suffering as example. "My father fought against Dominar," she explained as they shared a ration bar in the shelter of a cave. "He believed old ways, not cruelty." "Is he alive?" Elian asked. Nira's inner eyelids flickered, that same gesture of discomfort he'd seen in Koval. Not knowing. Many Telsian taken to mines after rebellion. The night grew cold, and they huddled together for warmth. Elian found himself acutely aware of the alien quality of her presence, the slight vibration beneath her skin that all Voskerians possessed, the faint scent like ozone and spice. "Why risk for stranger?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "Humans need Voskar minerals, need Dominar agreement." Elian stared into the darkness. Some things matter more than agreements. She shifted beside him, her bandaged hand finding his in the darkness. The touch was tentative, experimental. "Dominar says humans have no honor, only want things from ground." "Maybe most of us," Elian admitted, "but not all." As exhaustion finally claimed him, Elian felt Nira's head rest against his shoulder, a gesture of trust that meant more than any words could express. Tomorrow would bring new dangers, but for now, in this small cave on an alien world, something remarkable had taken root between them. The abandoned temple rose from the highlands like a monument to forgotten gods, its spiral towers weathered by centuries of Voskerian storms. To Elian, it appeared both alien and strangely familiar, reminiscent of ancient Earth structures, yet fundamentally different in its geometry. "Telsian's sacred place," Nira explained as they approached the massive arched entrance, before Dominar clan took power. 5 days had passed since their escape. Nira's strength returned with remarkable speed, her wounds healing faster than human injuries would. The language barrier between them had dissolved, partly through Elian's translator, and partly through Nira's quick adaptation to English. The temple interior offered shelter from both elements and searching eyes. Ancient murals covered the walls, depictions of Voskerian history that contradicted much of what the diplomatic corps had taught about this world. "Your people were artists," Elian observed, tracing a finger along a particularly intricate design. Nira nodded, a mixture of pride and sadness in her expression. "Telsians built, created, studied stars. Dominar clan fought, conquered." That evening, they prepared a small fire in the temple's central chamber. Secure in their temporary sanctuary, they allowed themselves to relax for the first time since their flight. Nira showed Elian how to prepare the native plants they'd gathered, combining them into a surprisingly flavorful stew. "My mother taught this," she said, stirring the mixture. "She was keeper of old knowledge." "Will you ever see her again?" Elian asked. Nira's gaze grew distant. "Perhaps, if rebellion succeeds." "There's still a rebellion." She nodded slowly. underground, waiting, growing. She gestured around them. Why you think search parties not come here? This place protected by those who remember old ways. Later, as the fire burned low, Nira approached where Elian sat examining his dwindling medical supplies. Without warning, she placed her hands on either side of his face, a Voskarian gesture he didn't recognize. You have risked everything for me, she said, her amber eyes reflecting the firelight. In old Telsian ways, this creates bond, life debt. I didn't do it for debt, Elian replied softly. I know, she whispered. That makes it stronger. The kiss that followed was tentative, exploratory, the meeting of two species who had never considered such a connection possible. Her lips were cooler than a human's, with that same subtle vibration he'd noticed before, but the emotion behind the gesture translated perfectly across the gulf between their worlds. When they separated, Elian saw something in her eyes that transcended language, biology, and the vast distances between their origins. The Dominar teaches that humans have no soul, she said, that you are machines of flesh seeking only resources. Elian smiled. And what do you think now? I think, she replied, tracing the contour of his jaw with a four-fingered hand, that Dominar knows nothing of human hearts. That night, they discovered the universal language of touch, learning the strange cartography of each other's bodies with wonder rather than hesitation. What began as curiosity evolved into something deeper, more profound, a connection neither had imagined possible between their kinds. Dawn found them entwined, the differences between their species seeming insignificant compared to the bond they had forged. Outside their sanctuary, however, the consequences of Elian's choice were unfolding. The temple's ancient communication system, still partially functional, captured fragments of broadcasts. The human diplomatic mission had officially disavowed Elian's actions, declaring him a rogue agent to preserve their precious deuterium contracts. The price of compassion was exile from his own kind. The rebel settlement nestled in a valley beyond the temple highlands, hidden from Dominar surveillance by ancient technologies that the ruling clan had forgotten. As Elian and Nira approached, guided by markers only she could recognize, they were met by a patrol of Telsians whose violet neck markings matched Nira's. Recognition flashed in their eyes when they saw her. Words were exchanged in rapid Voskarian, too complex for Elian's translator to process. Then, to his surprise, the patrol formed a ceremonial circle around them both. They honor you, Nira explained, watching his confusion. Call you Chainbreaker. The settlement itself was a marvel, a harmonious blend of technology and natural formations that put the Dominar's harsh, utilitarian structures to shame. Elian saw Voskarians creating art, teaching children, and tending gardens, activities absent from the Dominar-controlled regions. They were brought before the settlement's council, where an elder Voskarian rose to greet them. His violet markings were faded with age, his stance dignified despite obvious injury to one leg. Father, Nira whispered, her voice breaking. The reunion that followed brought tears to Elian's eyes, a reminder that some emotions transcended biological differences. When the initial joy subsided, Nira's father addressed Elian in perfect English. You have given me back my daughter, at great cost to yourself, he said. The human compound has declared you traitor. The Dominar has placed bounty on your head. Elian nodded. He had expected no less. Our rebellion grows stronger each cycle. The elder continued. Your action, one human defying both his kind and ours for principle, has become powerful symbol. Already, stories spread through mines and outposts. That night, a feast was held in their honor. Elian observed how Nira moved among her people, confident, respected, a natural leader like her father. She belonged here, among those fighting to restore their world's better nature. As the celebration wound down, she found him staring at the distant stars. Those include your son, she asked, following his gaze. Too far to see from here, he replied, just like Earth is too far to return to. Nira took his hand, her touch now familiar, cherished. "Council has offer for you," she said. "You could stay. Help us. Your knowledge of Dominar technology, human diplomatic procedures, valuable to our cause." "And if I stay," Elian asked, turning to face her, "what would I be?" "A useful asset, a curiosity." Her amber eyes held his. "To my people, a hero. To me." She placed his hand against the violet markings on her neck. "Whatever we choose to become together." The choice crystallized before him. Return to face human justice, likely imprisonment for violating the non-interference directive and sabotaging Earth's resource agreements, or remain here, helping these people while building something unprecedented with Nira. "Your father said my action has become a symbol," Elian said thoughtfully. "Perhaps that's what both our worlds need. Proof that compassion can bridge even the widest gaps between us." Nira's expression softened. "So you stay." Above them, the alien constellations of Voskar wheeled in patterns Elian was only beginning to recognize. On this world, he was the alien. Yet in this moment, he had never felt more certain of where he belonged. "10 days I watched you suffer," he said, drawing her close. "I won't spend another day apart." The kiss they shared beneath those foreign stars sealed more than a personal choice. It represented something revolutionary on this harsh world, the possibility that different beings could see each other's pain and choose connection over protocol, compassion over convenience. From the temple heights, the rebellion's beacon fired into the night sky, visible across half the planet. A signal of hope to all Telgians that change was coming. And at its heart stood two unlikely figures, a Voskarian daughter of rebellion, and a human mechanic who had broken the chain that 100 others wouldn't touch.